Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Meme Team podcast, where we talk about the logic behind virality, because marketing isn't just logic, it's culture, and our podcast decodes both. We're welcoming back Christina Garnett, the author of Transforming Customer Brand Relationships, to the podcast. Welcome back, Christina.
Thanks for having me. It's always a blast.
So let's just quickly jump in. We've got a lot to talk about this week.
Yeah.
So I wanted to follow up on another promotion that Nike's doing with the Dodgers. They're putting up a bunch of murals around LA. One of the ones I've seen is on 2nd and Broadway, where they're celebrating Yamamoto for his unforgettable Game 7 pitching that led to the back-to-back World Series titles. I think it's just another great way that Nike is showing that not only do they appreciate their brand ambassadors, but are showing love to the city and like the fans.
I love that. I think it also showcases that Nike gets that murals and graffiti are kind of their own version of out of home,
Mhm.
especially with that partnership. And so Nike has proven time and time again that they get it. They get the culture, they get like where sports and cities intertwine, and they want to celebrate that. So I honestly love it, but I'm also not surprised that they're doing it.
Yeah, definitely. So they got a graffiti legend, Shaka, to both do the murals and then do like graffiti art on top of it,
Love
which
that.
I think, yeah, which I think for me shows just that additional layer of understanding LA culture and like the graffiti that goes on all the walls here.
Mhm.
We also have other murals that have been, put up. One of the most famous ones for me is the Joe Kelly one, that he had that little pout face that he did when he pitched against the Astros after they were cheating during that, World Series. But I think it just kind of shows that they know LA, they know the fans, they know the culture
Mhm.
here, and props to them for like paying attention and like
Yeah,
making the effort.
absolutely.
Awesome. So I want to talk about Apple and their new logo and their rebrand, basically. Part of like the vibes here is kind of defaulting back to when it was, the colors of the rainbow, and when they were cool, back in like 77, but make it glass. So I think that's kind of what stood out to me was that they made the actual logo from glass and then filmed on top of it so they could get the like prism kind of making the rainbow shine through, which is kind of cool. So they colored it with lights instead of going digital. And I think it really, showcases that at a time when so many companies, and we'll talk about this later as well, but when so many companies are trying to use AI or go digital, the companies that are paying attention by doing it more manually know that they have a chance to show a different way of showing their brand and like what
Mhm.
they care about. And then they also lost the plus from the Apple TV, just to kind of show people that this is who we are now. Christine and I talked about this, I think pretty much the last time you were on here,
Yeah.
that like they
Yeah, we
don't
did.
have
Yeah.
that they don't have to like have the plus anymore, which makes sense because I'm seeing most of the other streaming
Mhm.
platforms are also losing the pluses. But I think what really excited me about this was that it's kind of Apple harkening back to being a company that's like building things, and really showing the craft as a differentiator, right? Like,
Mhm.
I mean, it kind of recalled their previous ads, like the 1984 ad. Um, and then, the computer Macintosh when they wrote out like that huge like it was like kind of like a whole essay about like, the computer,
Mhm.
and then even the PC versus Mac ads, right? Like those are just very distinctive for the time. It wasn't what any other like company was doing. So it was like really hitting those like marks of like we're building this craft, but then also bringing nostalgia marketing into it,
Mhm.
right? Where it's like they're reinterpreting their old logo and bringing it to the future instead of a just using the old logo again, or B, create a entirely like new rebrand. And then the last thing is it's just about using the practical effects versus the digital. I think right now so many companies are just defaulting to CGI and AI because it saves money, because it's easier. You don't have to like involve more people. So the fact that they really wanted to create it practically just shows that they're thinking more about what they want the brand to be and elevating it in that way. It's also for me really elevating the Apple TV brand itself,
Mhm.
which I've
Yeah.
spoken about time and time again. Like, if a show comes on, I'm gonna watch it because it's
Mhm.
like an Apple TV show. So it's now replaced HBO as like the prestige TV streaming service,
Mhm.
which I think also speaks to what they're building here of like trying to really reacquaint the brand of Apple TV with this the old Apple branding that they used to have, and then kind of merging it all together to have it all, be one thing. Did you see the brand update, Christina?
I did, I loved it. I think it really showcases, especially it coming from Apple, I think it just makes it significantly more profound because Apple is known for innovation. It's known for,
Mhm,
like you said, the 1984 ad where they are, here's to the troublemakers, here's to the innovators, here's to the people who are
mhm,
really pushing things forward. And so I love that a tech company, when everyone else is choosing AI, is saying, what if we focus on craft and not
mhm,
necessarily jumping to tech for tech's sake? And
mhm,
so I love that. And I think it showcases everything that Apple's doing, especially as a media company,
mhm,
is showing that it's quality over quantity. Like you said, if you see a show that's on Apple TV, you know that it's gonna be good. Like, you
mhm.
know that they don't have flops. They're strategically choosing the best of the best, and so, you know that whether it's Slow Horses or whether it's Silo or a
Bad Sisters,
Bad
See,
Sisters, ooh, I love seeing
Foundation.
Foundation's great, but just, like, no matter what you're watching there, you know it's gonna be fantastic, and then I
Mhm.
think they also just got Pluribus, which is the new
Yeah, the
show.
Vince Gilligan show,
Yeah,
yeah.
which is the new show, and so it really feels like Apple is showcasing what they can do, and I think that, like, I absolutely love that they not only didn't use AI, but didn't use CGI, but and then gave us the behind the scenes of, like, how they
Mhm,
actually did it. I think it is such an Apple move to say, like, "You could do that, but, like, watch us do it the hard way.
mhm.
Watch us do it with through craft.
Yeah,
Watch us do it through physics."
yeah.
Watch us do it this way, and I think that it's such like, it feels so intrinsically Apple that they would do it that way, and I think that you're gonna see a lot of brands, and we're already seeing it. There are brands that are strategically choosing where they are in the AI
Mhm,
battle as to whether they're going all in and they don't care, or if they're being strategic about it and choosing, like, this needs to be rooted in reality, this needs to be rooted in craft, or, like, a blend, and so I think if you look at Coca-Cola versus Apple versus Barbour with the Wallace and Gromit. I know we're gonna talk about that later, but
mhm.
just like all of these things, brands, whether they realize it or not, they're staking a claim in the AI
Mhm.
battle as to where they are and how they see themselves in the battle for creativity.
Yeah, I think what I also love about it is that it's also signifying to the rest of Hollywood that like Apple is here to play. They're like,
100%.
we have money and we're gonna
Yeah.
use it. And we're seeing that with this, of course, but it also brings to mind the F1 movie, right? Where it's like
Yeah.
you read on like the history and like the making behind it, and it's like they had to go and create the cameras that would be able
Mhm.
to film the cars
Yeah.
making the noise and like driving really fast because the technology didn't exist. So
Yeah.
Apple's like, bet we'll create it and then, put this movie out there. It ended up being like the highest grossing film that they,
Yeah.
have ever made. One of
Yeah.
Brad Pitt's, I think it was actually Brad Pitt's highest,
Mhm.
grossing film as well. Um, they're pretty much pretty like it's pretty guaranteed that they're gonna do the sequel just
Mhm.
because it did so well.
Mhm.
But it also brings to mind the whole, like, what we're seeing with, like, Kodak that's, like,
Mhm.
doing they did the Ryan Coogler,
Mhm.
video where, like, he's speaking about
Yep.
the IMAX formats and, like, the sound quality and audio quality and all that. And it just showing that, like, within Hollywood, there's this, like, separation happening of the
Oh,
people that
yeah.
really wanna focus on the craft, and
Yep.
then, the ones that are like, we should be using AI. I mean, who was it that, like, recently I think it was Kevin O'Leary that was, like,
Oh,
talking
I can't
about
with him. I can't
yeah,
with
that
him.
was talking about, like, "Of course we should be using AI. Why should we be paying for extras
I'd like
when, like"
AI to replace him. AI
Yeah.
can have him. Yeah.
Um
I think that's a good point though, because you have like Ryan Coogler and you also have like there's gonna be directors who specifically choose to work with Apple and the
Oh, yeah.
studios that do this. Like
Mhm,
Guillermo del Toro has come out a lot recently with the
mhm.
Frankenstein movie
Right.
talking about his views of AI. Christopher Nolan has not only talked about AI, but he's also
Mhm,
just has a massive track record for his use of practical effects versus
mhm,
CGI. And so not only is that like behind the scenes take of Apple signaling like they're gonna do it the hard way and do it
mhm.
beautifully, if I'm a director who has very, like, deep and passionate
Mhm.
thoughts about practical effects versus CGI versus AI, and I see that studio like that
Mhm.
showcasing that we are aligned,
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm Apple, I'm trying to get Nolan's next project. I'm
Right?
trying to get Guillermo del
Mhm.
Toro's next project because I know that we are aligned, and
Yeah.
so I think that that would be a huge get. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they're thinking too.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I think like that's what we're seeing with a lot of the actors that have just
Mhm.
gone there, right? Like I recently started watching it's another series written by the Slow Horses writer.
Is that
They
the one with
created
Emma
this.
Thompson?
Yes,
Yeah,
Emma Thompson and Rachel Wilson. And I was like, "Wait, what's this?" I didn't even, like, hear about this. And then I saw it, like, come up, and I'm like, "Okay, definitely watching that." So I
I
started
love
watching, I'm
Emma
like,
Thompson, so
I
I
know,
have to
right?
watch it, yeah.
You definitely have to, it's really good. Um, so the one thing that Apple isn't doing is great job of marketing some of the, secondary shows.
Yep,
They've shown that when they put money behind like money, marketing budget, and like creative ideas behind it, they can create the Severance, like,
yep.
pop up, and
I loved that. It's like Apple's I feel like big Apple's biggest problem with that and why they've struggled is because they're Apple. And so they try to do what they did for their past work. The name recognition is there, but with their media side, they've had to reestablish themselves. They have to build that brand as kind of from scratch
Yeah.
because they're not a studio. They really have to like showcase that they can actually go into that sphere, they can go into that vertical and they can own it. And they've done a really good job with like how selective they are with the projects they do. But I feel like they finally realize I feel like they have been listening and they realize a lot of the marketing hasn't been good. But as soon as
Mhm.
I saw the Severance like experiential marketing,
Mhm, mhm.
I was like, you're finally paying attention to Netflix. Like that's what I need Apple to do is like
Right, but it's
watch Netflix.
been
Like,
yeah, but it's been a while, like
yeah,
the Severance thing was like earlier this year, so it's like
yeah.
I'm pretty sure wasn't that like March, April?
Yeah,
Um
it was, like, right before season 2 started, yeah.
Yeah, so, that's come and gone, you know? What's the next show? Like, even if it's not every single show, like, they have to
Yeah,
do something, right? Like,
yeah,
they have to get their actors coming out to, like, speak on, the projects, like, doing something, because otherwise, the only way that I hear about them is by, flipping through my Apple
yeah,
TV, like,
yeah,
catalog, which is not the best way,
no,
or word of mouth, which I will be honest, like Apple's word of mouth is like it's up there, right? Because like
yeah.
some people are paying attention just based on like the Vince Gilligan show, Pluribus,
That was
right? Like
all
that.
over Twitter the
Right.
past, like,
So
couple
it's
days
like
for me,
that's
yeah,
people talking about it, saying like you have to watch this show. Oh my God, it's like the best show ever. But then it's like, okay, but Vince Gilligan, he's like a proven successful director and like show
yeah,
creator, showrunner, everything. What are they doing to like promote this next big show that could
yeah,
be like a, powerhouse for the network, And then like what you mentioned, right? Like Netflix has been at this game for like a while. Like they could learn a thing or two from them and see what they were doing, back in the day when they first started. Now
yeah,
Netflix, kind of has that word of mouth and
mhm,
like their the name brand that they don't have to do it as much. Though they too have started kind of like stepping up their game with like a lot more series, like period series, right? Like the House of Guinness, like all those like shows that recently launched. The Guillermo del Toro, Frankenstein film. I just really wish they would step up their game.
that also showcases the power of marketing and
Yeah.
how being a great marketer in one specific vertical doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna be great in a different vertical,
Yeah,
and so, like, if you're used to, like, product marketing, you're not necessarily gonna be great at entertainment marketing and, like,
that's true.
understanding press cycles and comms and PR and, like,
Mhm.
it's a very different muscle, and so I think what Apple's I like, obviously, I'm not on the inside, but
Yeah.
what I keep seeing is it feels like a lesson of just because you have mastered one level of marketing does not mean that you've mastered all of it.
Yeah.
It is a constant learning curve, and so you need to see like who are the other players in the market and what are they doing and what's working and what's not working. I especially in entertainment, I particularly love experiential. I think experiential works
Oh, yeah,
fantastic. Like what
totally.
they did at Severance and Grand
Mhm.
Central Station. That is why that's why I watched all of season 1, binged it, and like got through season 2. Like
Mhm.
I don't know if I was a target market, but I took that bait immediately. Like,
Yeah.
it 100% worked for me.
Yeah.
And I know that it worked for other people too. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I think you have a lot of product marketers at Apple who need to learn how to do entertainment. And so, like, I need you to be copying Netflix's homework.
Mhm.
Like, you need to be seeing what they're doing, what they're not working, like how they show up for things, what
Mhm.
they're like, how are they showing up? I love that. I think my one qualm with Netflix is that you can tell who their favorites are versus not. Like,
Sure.
I've seen shows that never got any love, and then and then you have the Empire State Building lit up anytime Stranger Things is mentioned. Like,
Oh my gosh.
it's those kind of things, like,
Yeah.
I think my only problem is Netflix is they give a lot of love if it's a flagship show or it's, like, hyper trendy, but if it's not one of those 2 buckets, you kind of just like, you should be grateful you're in the room. That's probably
Yeah.
my only qualm with Netflix's marketing, but I get it, like, there's only so much budget, there's only so many hours in the day and
Mhm.
so much creative, but, yeah, I'd love for there to be a little bit more love for, like, more independent stuff there.
Yeah, I agree. Well, cool. So a couple things that stand out here, that good content is not enough. Like Apple is consistently putting out gems of TV that everybody should be watching. I do like that I am finding about different shows from different communities. It's not consistent that like one person watches everything. But it does seem as if we're the ones that have to take it on ourselves to like get people to start watching the shows that we love. So that's a huge call out there. It's like we've reached this like level of like knowing that even within tech, right? We're starting to talk where it's like good content, a good product, good enough is just not enough anymore. You have to get those distribution channels open in order to start promoting your product to the people that would like your product or service. Apple needs to step it up in that regard. But one of the things that I think this ad and like the rebrand is going to help is doing that, is finding more of those like people that like want to work with them, whether it's the directors themselves that are like, hey, Apple is obviously, setting up what they think about, practical effects and AI versus like the craft and like art of movie making. And if that's something that artists and directors care about, clearly that's going to be the place that they want to go to. So it's a good way for them to be positioning themselves and kind of laying the roadwork for eventually getting to the point that they are, putting more marketing budget, behind it.
So next we're going to talk about Sephora and specifically the It Is Time
Yeah.
ad with Mariah Carey, which seems perfect. Obviously, we know that after a certain point, basically it's Mariah Carey's time, it's the holidays, we're going to do the whole thing, which is lovely. However, Sephora is in a bit of a heated conversation, specifically on TikTok. I'm seeing a lot of the negative kind of backlash over there. Um, Specifically with this ad, so to set the stage, you have Mariah Carey kind of comes in floating. She's wearing this like white, cream, silver, whatever, depending on your lighting, gown. She's saying it's time. She's lit like an angel. Everything's great. The problem is that there's an elf. It's Billy on the Street
Billy
is
Eichner. Mhm.
Billy Eichner, and he's playing an elf, a disgruntled elf, I need to say, who has a bag of Sephora goodies, and he's leaving. He's on strike, and he is going to sell the products in his bag in order to be able to afford Christmas. And so Mariah Carey takes the front to this, is very angry, and basically like poofs him into like a statue or something, um, which is fine. The problem with this is that, and you know this, is that marketing does not exist in a bubble. It does not exist in a vacuum. And there are other things that have absolutely nothing to do with your brand that directly impact how someone relates or reacts to your advertising campaign. And for this instance, yes, it's the holidays. And yes, we know if we hear Mariah Carey say it's time, that means it's the holiday season. The problem is a lot of people are struggling right now. A lot of
Mhm.
people don't know how they're going to be able to afford Christmas. They don't know how they're going to be able to even feed their children right now. And so, for a brand that should know that people are struggling, it feels almost like and also this is a year where a lot of consumers have been boycotting brands. There's been a massive boycott against Starbucks, there's been a massive boycott against Target. That's really proven that they can move the needle when you get enough people in mass taking a stand together. And so you have Sephora saying, like, we know that people are striking, we know that people are unhappy, we know that people are unable to afford Christmas this year, and we're going to double down and say, like, it doesn't matter, it's time. Which, whether the intention is bad or good, is kind of irrelevant when it comes down to how each person is reacting to those videos. There, like with most things, there are people who've watched the ad and be like, "I don't get it. It's not that deep. It's the
Yeah.
holidays. Calm down." But there are also people that are saying like, "You know better, and you should understand that because of that, I don't want to shop with you anymore." And so I've seen people they've removed or destroyed like their Sephora cards. They've talked about the things that they wanted to buy that they're not going to buy, that they're going to buy from some other retailer now because like with most things in the marketplace, you can boycott one because there's somewhere else that you can get that product or service. It's not like you're saying no to one and because of that you have no access to that at all. And so we're seeing, especially in the holiday season again, controversies are rampant. Consumers are on edge and they are going to react accordingly, whether the brand intends it or not. And so being able to read the room, as always, is a priceless endeavor for brands.
That's such a yeah, I mean, we're seeing that across the board, right? I mean, one
Yes.
of the
Yes.
things even to bring up is the whole Sydney Sweeney thing again,
Yeah.
right? Where
Yeah.
like it's not so much what she's saying, but
Yeah.
it's how she's saying it or the
Yes.
fact that she's even wanting to have it brought up at all when it's like we already know that it's like controversial. She's kind of gotten a pass where it could go one way or the other. And then this time it kind of just like confirmed in people's minds that, oh, okay, you actually are going there.
Yeah.
And then like that's the thing here where it's like, Mariah Carey at this point in her career has kind of seemed a little like, she's in her bubble. She's not
Yeah.
really like of the people anymore, which happens, right? You make enough money,
Yeah.
you don't really see the struggles of, the day-to-day people. But Sephora has tried to make it a, thing where it's like they've started going down market to try to be more appealing to, a broader customer range. So the fact that they didn't think that this was gonna like hit, it's kind of yeah, like the American Eagle Sydney Sweeney ad, right? Where it's like
Yeah.
if you had maybe talked to like read the room a little, like maybe
Yeah.
we wouldn't have gotten embroiled in this, right?
Yeah.
Um I think another thing too that like really stands out is the whole song All I Want for Christmas is,
Uh-huh.
it's very anti-consumerist. It's like about a person, like
Yep.
what I want for Christmas is you under the tree. And then this kind of made it very much like, you want to buy stuff, you want to buy makeup, you want to, have a whole bunch
Mhm.
of things. And it's just like not really what the spirit of the message is. It's
Yeah.
also technically not the spirit of the message that you want to send for Christmas, especially
Mhm.
this year
Yeah.
because I mean, the government shutdown is over yesterday, right?
Mhm.
But it hasn't been. So when they were coming up with this ad and the idea, the government shutdown was still happening,
Yeah.
which means that a lot of people were not getting a paycheck.
Yep.
And we're still trying to decide what are we doing for the holidays. So I think they could have gone with like the spirit of Christmas this year is about getting family and friends together and like, really trying to imbue the happiness of the season into it as
Yeah.
opposed to, go back to work because it's Christmas and you want to make people happy selling, stuff that they probably don't need. So that's a wild message. I hadn't seen this until you told me about it. Actually before you explained it, I was like, it can't be that bad. I mean, like, but then when you're explaining it, I was like, oh wow, no, that's like
But it keeps going. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. This reminds me of the whole Pepsi and Kendall Jenner
Yeah.
like protest ad, the
Right.
height of like,
Yeah.
the marches and protests during like 2020 or
Yeah.
2021. Like read the room, people.
Well, I just think I think that there's so many levers to play with holidays, and especially
Mhm.
with Mariah Carey, like, it doesn't have to be nostalgic, it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
sentimental, it could still be fun, like, I
Mhm.
just like, the way she looked, so here's my pitch for Sephora. You basically have Mariah Carey, same outfit, same look,
Mhm.
same lighting, she looks angelic, she looks like the picture of Christmas, she is just a holiday joy, just glowing.
Mhm.
I love the idea of her walking into a mall, and it's almost like she parts the waters and everything changes. Like, she walks past a Hot Topic, and now it's, like, white
Christmassy.
and
Mhm.
Christmassy and
Mhm.
twinkle lights and, like, glowy. She goes past Sephora, and now it's decorated. It's almost like she's like a Christmas fairy. Like,
Mhm.
have her, like, because it's time, she walks in the room and everything is transformed. Everything
Mhm.
is better. There are sales that weren't sales because Christmas is here and it wasn't before. There are decorations, there are specialty gifts, there are things that you could only get at Sephora because it's the holidays. Like, she
Mhm.
really could have been almost this Christmas fairy that, like, transforms the
Yeah.
time of the season just by existing, because we all know we've kind of gotten it beaten into our heads. We're conditioned. When you hear that certain note, you know what time of year it is. Play into it. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely play into it. Have fun.
I
Talk
mean,
about how
she usually
transformative
does,
it is.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if part of the problem was that it was is this like the first brand collaboration? Because
I've heard it was, and I'm not mad at that. Like,
yeah,
get
yeah.
your bag, Mariah. You
Yeah,
deserve
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
holidays are yours. Get it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
I
but I
think
think, like,
yeah.
playing into, like, what Sephora was like, "We need to get people shopping," whereas, like,
Yeah.
before, the whole purpose of it was like, "Hey, we're transitioning from Halloween into Christmas?"
Yeah.
So it was just more about, like, the message, and then now it was like,
Mhm.
"Okay, yes, like, let me make a profit off this," and then just kind of
Yeah.
hit the wrong note. Because I think, yeah, your idea would have done exactly what they wanted,
Yeah,
in
it
a
would've gotten me
fun
excited. I'd be like,
yeah.
"Oh, okay, let's go." Or like,
Mhm,
"I didn't know that was gonna be on sale," or "I didn't
mhm.
know that that was a product they were gonna do." Like,
Yeah.
there are so many things that Sephora could have done that would have been fun, that would have made people excited. I just You could have also, like, found, like, your like, I'm always gonna be the person that tells you
Mhm,
to use your customers like influencers. Like, you could have picked, like, the top 10 TikTokers who are not necessarily influencers that are big Sephora people,
mhm,
invite them to be at the shoot, and they get to be extras in the Sephora store while it's transformed. Those people
mhm.
would have never stopped talking about it. They
Yeah.
would have talked about it for the rest of time.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
it would have been perfect. Like, she walks by them in an aisle and all of a sudden, like, their makeup and hair is done and, like, their
Mhm,
outfit is different and, like, it just I don't know. Like, I just think of so many other ways that you could have
mhm.
done something fun and playful and made your customer feel seen. Instead, those same people that could have been the ad are now yelling at you and cutting off your cards because now they feel slighted because you basically called them poor to their face. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Okay, well, one thing too, though, I just read here was that they're making fun of a character who can't afford therapy when your audience may not also be able to afford therapy. Like, come on, like who
And it's also been
who
a tough
thought that
year.
was okay though?
A tough year. It's been a tough year. We all, like, as a collective society, we need therapy. So,
Yeah,
like, maybe, maybe
yeah.
this is the year you give us a pass
I
and,
know.
like, don't
I
mock
don't
us.
yeah, I'm just like, who came up with this and who was like writing it and was just like, yes, let's do this. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh
But then the
god.
other thing, right? You and I were talking about this before about Christina not falling for it anymore and being like, it's rage bait. Like, I'm not gonna give them the time of day anymore.
I don't think this was I don't think this was on purpose. I think
Okay.
this is out of touch people thinking they're funny, because I don't think Mariah would have agreed to do it if she thought
Hmm.
it was controversial. I think she's more protective of her brand than that.
Her brand,
I
this song, like,
Yeah, I
does this
don't
put a
think
stain on the song for every
I'm not
other
gonna let
year?
it. I'm not gonna let it.
And this is on top of, Elf Cosmetics that had
Yep,
the controversial,
yep,
ad with Sydney Sweeney and American Eagle commercial. The fact that now we have to, like, question, is this actual rage bait or was it, like, just out of touch people that, made a mistake? And then
yeah,
where do you go from here? Because, I feel like consumers' empathy and like patience for allowing companies to like work their way back
yeah,
is shorter than ever. We've
yeah,
seen that Target has not bounced back from
yep,
their initial like quarter sales after they got rid of the whole DEI and like diversity internal policy that they
mhm,
had. So I think we're going to continue seeing that consumers are like sticking to their guns and not just like coming back as soon as they like issue an
yep.
apology. Speaking of which, have they issued an apology?
Not that I've seen.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we won't get one. I think if we get one at all, it'll be a misunderstanding. That was not our intention.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna get an apology on this one. I think you're gonna get
Yeah.
a we we just weren't aligned on messaging. It was a misunderstanding. That's if I think that's the comms we'll see if we get any at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder since this one is what we were thinking is unintentional, if a more like a deeper apology might be necessary and like work. But it's kind of shown that a lot of companies just don't care right now.
Yeah.
I guess another company that we're seeing that does not care about their brand or what they're doing in terms of AI is Coca-Cola, who has doubled down on using AI to generate their holiday commercial, even after last year's flopped and they received backlash. And one of the things that actually stood out to me was that someone at Coca-Cola was like, people don't actually care about the Coca-Cola commercial. So, like, why should we even like change it? Which I think goes to show a lot about like what you think about your own branding and then also what you think about like the consumer. Because if that is the case, that like your actual target customer like doesn't care, then okay, fine. I guess continue doing, your fake AI like polar bears or whatever. But if like people actually care, then you're make them feel as if like you're not listening to them. And I want to pair this up against the Wallace and Gromit commercial with Barbour, who took 2 years to create this claymation short. And it's getting praised because it's like showing this animation that's handcrafted by humans. And then they also have like a behind the scenes video that they put out with it showing like what goes into it. And I found that behind the scenes thing far more interesting than the commercial itself because like
Yeah.
you get to see like how long it actually takes
Yeah.
to like do the little movements of like, Wallace and
Yeah.
Gromit and showing that like handcrafted animation is actually worth both the time and money that goes into it, but like the effort that you're showing to your consumers saying like,
Mhm.
hey, you're like us. If this is what you care about, come buy from us, right? And I think that really stood out to me because I think Barbour in general is doing a really good job with not
Yeah.
just these this partnership, but with other partnerships where they're,
Mhm.
Christina and I have been going back and forth with their Farm Rio
Yep.
collaboration that they just announced, and then they did a Levi's one earlier this year. So it's really showing that they're trying to expand their brand by choosing collaborators that make sense for them and their brand and like elevate them in some way. And it's not just a money grab that they're trying to do that's like reducing their, brand equity or cheapening it. Which happens a lot with other companies. So it shows that they like really care. One thing that I wanted to like point out here is that 76% of consumers say they're less likely to engage with AI generated creative content. So I think that that's like something that more and more consumers are actually going to start paying attention to.
Mhm.
And even if Coca-Cola thinks that people are going to continue buying their product, they have more options than ever. And is that really what you want to do? Is just set yourself up to like, lose consumers over your stance on AI? Have you seen the Wallace and Gromit commercial, Christina?
I have. I loved it. I'm a big fan of Wallace and Gromit. I love all of those. I'm also a big Shaun the Sheep fan
Mm,
from when my kids were younger. So like the
yeah.
whole studio is amazing. I love what you're talking about with audiences because I do think that both of them are speaking to their audiences very differently. For anyone who's saying like the audience doesn't care, that's the wrong statement.
Hmm.
I think if we think about like if we talk about Target, like we talked about previously with their boycott, which is honestly been very effective. I need you, if you're listening to this, I want you to Google every product that Coca-Cola actually owns. It is significantly difficult to boycott Coke as a
Hmm.
company, as a conglomerate. They own quite a lot. You can't drink, there's waters you can't drink, there's juices you can't drink. It isn't a I'm gonna give up my diet Coke and the AI wars. Like
Hmm.
it's so much more extensive than that. And I think Coca-Cola knows that, whether the audience cares or not. I think it's significantly harder to boycott than it is to, "I'm just not gonna go to this store." I live in the southeastern part of the United States, so, like, Coke is what some people call a soda. So that's what we're talking about, is we're talking about, like, a culturally significant brand that is a part of your life. So I don't necessarily think that the audience doesn't care. I think that you're asking the audience to care so much that they purposely avoid a habit because Coca-Cola has, like, the habit loops of habit loops.
Hmm.
And so, I think you need to think about that. So, my thing once I realized they had announced that Coca-Cola was gonna do their second AI ad,
Hmm.
I looked to see if it was significantly better than last year's. No. I did not see a year's worth of improvement in tech, in my opinion, and I
Yeah.
think you could even just look at the trucks and where, like, the lighting was around the trucks, you could see that they were different in almost every shot. Like,
Mm.
the consistency was non-existent, and so it felt like even if there was any technological advancements, there was no QA. I don't think that says anything about your audience. I think it says a lot about how you feel about your audience.
Mhm. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Barber I have tons of Barbour coats, I love them, and they're gonna last me for the rest of my life because I
Mhm.
take care of them, and then I'm gonna pass them down to my daughter. They all make sense to me, like, I can see the girl walking through the Cotswolds who has the Farm Rio,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
then I can see the guy in Seattle who's now gonna do the Levi's collab, and then he has like the corduroy collar. Like it
Mhm,
just
mhm.
makes so much sense to me. Like one of the collabs that like I have a wax coat and mine is with it's a Liberty collab.
Mm.
So Liberty of London. So like the lining and like the cuff inner lining is this floral Liberty pattern and they have like
Mhm.
different patterns every year.
Yeah.
But because that feels very me. So it's
Mhm,
like it's
mhm.
a way for Barber to not only offer more ways to have them be in your life, knowing full well that it's an investment, like they're not cheap, but they're also going to last like as long as you take care of them. But
Yeah.
also there's different collabs for who you are. So there really can be a Barber product for everybody. And then partnering with Wallace and Gromit is such an easy way to get little kids to be like, I want a jacket like that. I want like what is that? Like it's such an easy way to expand your audience while not betraying who you are, and so, like, I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, one thing actually that's, bringing up to me is just putting the 2 brands together. The Barber, the brand itself by partnering with like Wallace and Gromit and how long it takes to make the commercial, how long it takes to make the Barber coats. Just like again, speaking to what we were talking about earlier with Apple, it's just like the craft that goes behind it. It makes me
Yeah,
think that it's built on purpose, built to be long lasting, to last generations, to be generational, and it speaks to the product itself. Whereas
yeah.
with the AI slop and soda and sugar and like all
Mhm.
this, it just makes it seem like, oh, it's just slop. It's AI slop, it's sugar
Yeah,
slop, it's
yeah,
just slop, you know?
yeah.
And
I think
that's
that's a
like
great point.
now, yeah, now it's just kind of embedded in my head that like Barber, by taking care of like partnering with an animator that actually, practices its craft and like, puts time and money into it, that's what their brand also stands for.
Mhm.
And now we're seeing what Coca-Cola stands for. So
Yeah.
I think that that's something, as a takeaway from me,
Mhm.
for this section is that, how you're kind of positioning yourself and your brand and your company, really, shows your consumer what you're thinking about and what you value, whether that's craft and your consumer and like how long lasting your product is, or if you just kind of consider it to be, a throwaway, which,
Yep.
soda kind of is. So this time is all about consumer brands and
Yeah.
what they're doing, how they're hitting, how they're missing. I'm curious about this next one, the Starbucks
Yeah.
like bear, because earlier you mentioned people boycotting them.
Yeah.
And it seems like with the bear, the people are back. So
Yep.
yeah, I would love to hear what we're talking about here.
Yeah. So, in addition to the holiday cups that Starbucks drops every year, they dropped these special Starbucks little bear cups that came with a cup, like a lid came with a straw. And then they would give like maybe one or two to each store. And there were people camping out. Some people were camped out from like closed to open in order to make sure they were first in line so that they would be able to do that. First off, they made it this big like scarcity play. And so everyone got excited, wanted to do it. You have the usual suspects of like the Starbucks people who will literally do anything for whatever Starbucks has left. Then you also have the people who are basically resellers who will buy it just so they can put it on eBay for like $200 or $300. But what was happening is that sometimes some stores weren't getting any, some situations where the staff was actually clocking in were buying the bears themselves. And then when people would come in, they would be like, we've already sold out. There are videos of people actually like recording the inside of the store, and they can see the people come into the store because they work there, taking the bears off the shelf, putting it in the back, and then buying it, and then letting them in to tell them, like, it's already sold out. And be like, what do you mean it's already sold out? I'm the first person here. No one else has been in the building. And so it's just this whole thing. I think that in the same way, we need to have conversations about how brands are being thoughtful about how they're handling the holidays. I think we also need to talk about the customer side and how they need to act like they have any sense, because there's a lot of conversations now about consumerism. It's like, what
Mhm.
do you mean you waited 12 hours for a bear that will be on Temu in like 2 weeks? Like, What do you mean you're cussing out people over something that you could buy on Etsy?
Mhm.
Like, what are we doing? And so I think that this is the other side of that coin, which is we need to have a conversation about consumerism and how things have just gotten ridiculous between Labubus and now we have these bear cups. Not to be the person in the room saying like there are children starving, there are bigger problems in the world, but there are children starving and there are bigger problems in the world. And so like just as I would argue that brands need to be able to read the room, I need consumers to do the same. Like what are we doing? I feel like we've lost the plot.
Yeah, this one is wild to me because yes, I understand about like the consumer and the waiting, but also 1 to 2 bears per store to create the artificial scarcity
Yes.
for this. When Starbucks has previously had drops like this, I think it was the Target Stanley Starbucks collab or
Yes.
whatever, where
The
like
fights.
yeah. And I was
Yeah.
like, and that was more product than what they're doing here.
Yeah.
So like they kind of knew what they were doing, which is
They
like
absolutely
very
did. Yeah.
very
Well, I mean,
annoying.
it's consumer psychology as you
Mhm.
have this like scarcity, but like times 10.
Yeah.
And so they're playing with consumer psychology. They know they have a very feral fan base that's going to
Mhm.
go, that is willing to wait and going to create content about them waiting. And then if you read the apology, it's kind of like a non apology. It's kind
Mhm.
of like, oops, sorry that didn't go right. Sorry you were mad. But there is no like resolution. There is no like, we're going to make more or
So they're
we're going
not?
to have it.
I mean,
I'm sure they're gonna. I'm
I mean,
sure it's
they kind
gonna
of
be
have
like
to, right?
they're gonna do drops, but
Yeah.
it's kind of the thing of it's
But they've now
there's a
ruined the
lack of
trust,
preparation.
you know? I mean, if they
Yeah.
had started it from the beginning saying, "Hey, we're rolling out limited edition 1 to 2 per store," and then we'll have secondary, tertiary like drops, so
Yeah.
you don't have to like freak out. But the initial ones obviously are gonna be a little bit more special because they're the first ones. Those are for the really
Mhm.
hardcore like fans. Obviously, fix the internal situation of like your
Yeah.
own employees buying them. But
Which
then,
but honestly, that's on Starbucks too because they should have made a rule to
right.
basically
Oh no,
like
totally, totally.
to be like I can't be mad at the employees
Yeah.
unless there was a rule saying they couldn't buy them because
No,
honestly,
totally.
like they kind of deserve the bears after dealing with Karens all day.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, that definitely shouldn't be.
Respectfully, they
No, no,
kind of
no,
earned them. I'm kind of
for
on their
sure.
side unless there was a rule. Yeah.
No, 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 of course, like, if there's nothing saying that they can't do that, then obviously, they're able to do that. I think this is all, like, on Starbucks and, like, the decision that they made to limit the number of the bears that they were gonna put out in order to kind of create that rabidness within their fan base. That's just not the way to, like, go about doing this. They should have, like, sorted that out or at least be open and transparent about when more were gonna be created
Yes.
because at this point, like, gonna seem like a cash grab, which it will be.
Well, I think there's also two levers here that we also have to remember is that there is the mechanic that we have kind of engendered people to the belief that if you get access to something, you can actually make a profit by reselling it to someone else at exorbitant things. So we see this with concert tickets. We see this with any kind of experiential. We see this with swag. We see this with merch. We see this with all of these things. So you have that lever. Then you have the secondary lever of people getting into things purely so they can create content about it.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
like, there are a lot of people who are not only saying, like, not only am I mad because I didn't get this, but I have to create content out of something. So I was gonna make content about this bear and make it sound like I won the golden ticket. But since I don't have the golden ticket, I still need to make content. So let's make content about me being angry because I didn't get the golden ticket. Like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, like, we have these like two opposing levers where we have people doing things and what it's doing is it's actually removing the opportunity for people who are real fans. So, like, great
Mhm.
case in point is I'm a massive Radiohead fan. I did not get tickets. And I'm seeing the videos of these people in at the show in Madrid, and one of the TikToks is showing a girl who was basically like complaining because she was on her phone the whole time and she only like she videotaped this like two songs that she knew so she could post it on TikTok and that was it. And I was like, how many real fans would have like given a kidney, myself included, to go to that show but couldn't because someone was there and they wanted to make content. Same thing with Oasis. I love
Mm.
Oasis, but I really wanted to see Richard Ashcroft because I'm a Verve fan.
Mhm.
Well, there was a girl, this went viral. She Shazammed Bittersweet Symphony. And I was like, what do you mean I couldn't get tickets to the show, but this girl does not know who Bittersweet Symphony is? Like,
Mhm.
what do you mean? But she
Yeah.
was there for content. Like, we have people who are going to things and taking those spots away from people who were willing to pay, who would want to go, who would mean the world to them. But you know what? You looked cute in a concert and you wanted it to be online. And because of that, you took that opportunity from other people. And so the problem with consumerism is that we have to take accountability for the kind of like these machines that we've created, where
Mhm.
you can either everything is to turn into content or turn it into a profit. And because of that, there are people lacking who it genuinely would mean the world to them, and they don't even have the opportunity because those other machines are bigger than them.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting thing, right? People aren't really valuing the work and like the effort that like goes into them and are just kind of, complaining about stuff. We're even seeing it in like the tech world. We were talking about this last week with Moshe about the Neo like robot
Mhm. Yep.
where to some extent, like, yes, only certain people are going to be able to afford it. But on the flip side, at least there are companies that are wanting to fix chores and then
Mhm.
eventually home health care. Sometimes when we complain too loudly about the robot costing $20,000 or, not being where it needs to be like now, I fear we're gonna like hinder like progress in
Mhm.
those realms and instead just start creating military robots because they want it and like won't like be complaining. We need to have both optimists that like the world can get better and fix things for people, but then also like speak out against like a $30 like glass cup. It seems like the same energy goes into both. I mean, the huge thing right that happened this week with the Pope saying that like AI needs to have moralization, that we should be thinking about how it's going to affect the world and humans and jobs. And, Mark Andreessen kind of like quote tweeted it and just like made fun of it. Right. And it's
Yep.
just like those are the people that are like putting money towards companies that are going to affect the future. But he took it down. So there was enough backlash from people to say like, why are you trying to rag on the Pope? For like one of the things that like I read was that he chose the name Pope Leo because the
Mhm.
last Pope Leo took us through industrialization, right? And it's like bringing somebody who is not only American and can
Mhm.
speak to the American like populace and like VCs included, but then
Yeah.
also speak to like the science because he was an educated man that like got his
Mhm.
like graduate degree as well. And so like he knows that that's like what's facing the rest of us, the future, going forward. And I think that like those are conversations that need to be had
Yeah.
amongst all of us.
Mhm.
And like let's put more energy towards that and not just, buying stuff that comes out because it's cute.
Completely agree. Here, here. Completely agree.
Awesome. Well, let's go on to takeaways. So, for the Apple section, I think the big thing that stood out to me there was just how they're going back to like their original like craft and like paying attention to like their brand. I think kind of missed that a little bit with like the latest like product drops that they've been having, that there hasn't been enough, change with like the phones and like the computers and stuff. But it really seems like they're caring a lot about that with like the media side of things, with, the TV shows that they're putting like more money behind, working with good actors and directors, helping to, bring that art to the fold. So the fact that they are using, create this new logo makes a lot of sense to me to kind of like align themselves as like, this is what we want the Apple TV brand to represent makes so much sense to me. And I think brands need to think about that more. Just kind of also tying in the Barbour and like Coca-Cola thing where it's like, that's what both of those brands are doing. And I think going forward, a lot more companies are going to have to kind of stake a claim and like what they believe, not just because like, oh, AI will or will not benefit them, but just like it's going to attract the type of consumer that
Mhm.
aligns themselves with how they think about that. Um, and that, companies should start looking into that to see what their current consumer thinks, in order to align themselves a little better with that.
For Sephora, I think it really comes down to, at the end of the day, no matter what is happening in the world, being able to read the room is priceless.
Mm.
And so you could have the greatest idea, but that idea hits or misses is contingent on variables that have absolutely nothing to do with your brand, but you need to know that those variables are impacting your audience. And so understanding who is the ad for, what are the kind of the conditions of their life as they're becoming aware of this media, and how that will completely change. Because if you're comfortable and like maybe Sephora's too cheap for you, you're going to see that ad and you're not going to see a single thing wrong with it. But if you are struggling right now and you want to be able, like, maybe there's a new product that you wanted to get, or you wanted to get something for your daughter or for your mom or whatever, and you're not sure how you can even do that, that ad is not only going to come across as tone deaf, it's going to be very clear that, like, fine, you're not wanted here because you can't afford us. And so, whether that's the intention or not is irrelevant. It has to come down to how does the audience react to it based off of their learned experience. And so, understand your audience, understand what's happening outside of your brand so that you can actually have a thoughtful understanding of whether or not this ad is going to be successful and make people excited to shop with you and give you all the money they have, or it's going to make them feel alienated.
Yeah, I think this also kind of what we were just ending the conversation of like um that they kind of focus on the negative, instead of the optimism of like the holidays. There's such a play right now to not just do rage bait. You don't even have to go that far, but just to be snarky or mean
Yes.
or,
Yes.
and like that just came out here so like flagrantly that
Yeah.
even I was just like, whoa, that's just so like out there.
Yeah.
That I think like you got to start focusing on like the niceness,
Yes.
and like just test out to see if that like that works for like your consumer, because I have to think that to some extent it's just like people are just sick of like negativity and like snarkiness and
Yes.
like meanness, that like it's just turning people away overall. So yeah, that just didn't work at all for me.
Completely agree.
um but then with, the Barbour, like, and Wallace and Gromit, I think that that was such a, like, wholesome, whimsical, like, ad that people are just, like, you know, gonna turn to it and be like, "Oh, that's making me happy. Like, yay, like, let's, look at the brand and, see if we can buy that now or, like, buy it later." Because I think that that one's more about, like, brand awareness, than it is about, like, buying something right now. It's like, okay,
Yes.
you might not want to buy your kids a Barber jacket because it's a little expensive now, but it'll be one of those things that like when they age and they do need like a good coat, that'll be like a brand that you look towards, because it's like you'll remember this like happy, Wallace and Gromit commercial that they made.
All right. And then we got to talk about consumerism. I'm not just picking on the brands, I'm also picking on customers and
Yeah.
consumers right now. I think that when it comes down to the Starbucks bear, we need to not only be very thoughtful about how we are distributing products, we're using consumer psychology like scarcity and other things to make people go feral over our products and services. But I think also as consumers, we need to be more thoughtful about what we're doing. And like, do we really need to be fighting in a parking lot over a bear? No.
I guess to kind of jump on that, I think that just kind of maybe there's a level of conscientiousness that we could be having for a fellow man, and woman, more than like, us trying to like create content for it. But that seems to be like where so much of like the culture is headed. And
It
yeah,
it
we'll
it
see.
absolutely feels that way. It's like if everything's for profit or if everything's for content, and I think that goes into the AI conversation, everything else. If
Hmm.
everything is for content or everything is for profit, we've completely lost the plot. And
Yeah.
so the people who get lost in the shuffle, like there's nothing left for them.
Hmm. Well, what a damning message before we head into the
Sorry.
holidays.
I will find some like optimism, like
No.
sprinkle some optimism.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I mean, I think it's there. I mean, obviously, Apple, Barber, like they are thinking about their consumers. They've
Yeah.
obviously made other missteps, with like their products. I'm talking mostly here, Apple, but I think like one of the things with like Apple is I'm so grateful that they are creating content, like the old Medici model of just like throwing money at artists and letting them do the art. They're one of the ones that leave shows running long after Netflix would have like canceled them because
Mhm.
they, weren't that popular, even though they didn't put that much money behind the marketing.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that like Apple's using the tech money to fund the arts,
Agree. Agree.
side of things. And like I said, like, the Neo robot is not quite there, but there is optimism and like wanting to like fix chores, like come help me
Yeah.
do laundry. They just announced that, I think it was Blue Origin is also able to like send up rockets and then land them again, which so far only SpaceX had been able to do. So there are improvements happening in technology and there is optimism to be had. I would like to see more of that being spread amongst people as well.
Yes.
And well, thank you so much, Christina, for joining me and chatting about all this. Maybe one of the next times we'll actually solve all the problems. Where can people follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at that Christina G. Follow me on LinkedIn and kind of anywhere else you want to hang out. But I'm mainly on Twitter and LinkedIn.
Awesome. And then you can follow the pod at Meme Team Pod on YouTube and at Meme Team Podcast on Spotify and TikTok. See you.